Hello and welcome to the Hollywood Guys podcast episode 1. I'm Raunak Singh.
And I'm Vishnu Shreeve.
We've been thinking about starting a podcast on movies and TV shows for quite a while now, almost 4 or 5 years I would say.
Yeah, it was something we always wanted to do but never committed to. Like anytime we'd watch a good movie or a good TV show or read an awesome new comic book, we would text each other and mildly discuss it. Usually we lock away the good ideas and move ahead with the bad ones, but this is one great idea that we went ahead with, so I'm very happy with that.
Yes, absolutely. And so now the new Star Wars movie is about to get released. And to our surprise, the India release is a week later than the international release.
Because we're getting two big Indian films on releasing on the 18th here in India, and Disney probably doesn't want to compete.
Right. So people might not know this, but when when Hindi movies get released, like the big name Hindi movies, it's like, I don't know what, 15, 25, 30 shows a day in the same theater, I think.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
crazy, right? So
yeah.
like
Like they take over the entire multiplex.
yeah, exactly. It's like all screens, literally pretty much all screens will be showing the same movie over and over again because there are enough people who go and watch these. And it's a fact we have to face, like people like us who don't watch Hindi movies and watch Hollywood movies. Like I was talking, Gaurav is a very close friend of ours. And I was talking to Gaurav just now and I was telling him that I made a Reddit post regarding this. You know, the Star Wars is getting a delayed release in India.
Yes.
And I said that like for a long time now. Like I have not been watching Hindi movies for almost a decade now. So, so in all this time, I thought that me and Hindi movies were in a truce.
Oh,
You know that, okay, you exist and I'm able to watch all the movies that I want as well. Like I can go to multiplexes and cinemas and I can watch all the English movies which come out, and it's usually always in time, Avengers and Man of Steel and everything I want.
yeah, which is almost all
But
the time.
and we've seen these movies, we've watched English movies all our lives. And now what's happening is that the greatest English movie that we will be able to watch in the theaters, because you know we didn't watch Star Wars in the theaters. Well, I did 2 movies, but still. So
Yeah.
what about you? Did you watch any Star Wars in the theater?
Yes, I did go watch episode 2 and episode 3 at the theaters. I think I was in college when episode 3 had come out.
Okay, okay.
It was very emotional, Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah,
All
dude.
those,
Yeah.
all those ending bits from that movie where they just slaughter all of the Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. That was, I remember we had talked about it back then, and you had said
Yeah.
how when the Order 66 was passed, you started crying in the
That
theater.
was the worst order. Order 66.
Yeah. Like, so I was talking to Gaurav and I told him that you know, it's like I always thought that I had a truce with these movies, Hindi movies, the Bollywood, as they say, the Bollywood movies. And now it feels like I'm a Jawa who's never met a stormtrooper in his life. But I was thinking that I was at truce with the Empire, you know. So,
Good
so,
for you.
so yes, so Star Wars is releasing, Force Awakens is releasing on the 25th in India, and we're looking forward to it. I'm gonna go watch it on the first day of release. So,
Hopefully, first day, first show. Hashtag FDFS.
so as the Force Awakens, I thought, so shall we, and finally like move forward with doing this podcast.
You know what? The whole idea of this podcast is very rebellious.
How's that?
For similar people out there who have
Yeah.
the same thoughts and same feelings like us,
Mm-hmm.
and how how they are anticipating this worldwide release of Star Wars,
Yeah.
and they have to wait for like 10 days or something.
So yeah, so maybe people can share in the agony that we are facing by listening to this podcast. So tell me, how did you get to know Star Wars?
How did I get to know Star Wars? This was through my aunt's husband,
Okay.
who is an avid fan of Star Wars. This guy, he used to travel a lot back in the 90s itself. And do you remember LD's laser disc? It used to be this
Laser disc.
huge
Yes.
disc.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's this huge disc, and you have to play it. You need a huge player, and you need to have kind of a home theater system, which was available back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So he had this laser disc of Star Wars, and I didn't know what Star Wars was back then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're talking about early 90s.
Yeah, because so people might not realize this, but like the exposure we had to these things was very limited, right? Because
Yeah,
all around us, it was just like you were in South India, so everything around you was the Tamil cinema, and I was in
Tamil songs, farming, agriculture. Only this,
yes,
on TV. There's nothing.
yes,
There wasn't
exactly.
anything else on TV. But
And I later on I moved to a bigger city called Chandigarh, but early in my life I was in like till the late 90s I was in this very small town called Jamshedpur in the eastern state of Bihar.
all right,
At that time, Jharkhand now, and this was a very small place. I mean, like our exposure was just so limited. There were like 2 or 3 movie theaters in the whole in the whole city. Like I think it was just 2 to be honest, and both of those only showed Hindi movies. And these are not like, and when I say movie theaters, I mean movie theater, as in there was just one screen. This is before multiplexes, before malls or
yeah,
anything, and it was just like there was no other use for that. There's no shops in the same building or something. It's just one theater, and you buy a ticket and you go and watch a movie. And like very rarely they would like it was almost impossible that a Hindi movie would that an English movie would be released in these.
what fun!
Even if it was, it would be dubbed or something.
Right.
But I have one memory from that time of my mom says I was 3 years old, and like I don't remember anything from when I was 3 years old, but I remember this one glimpse I had of Superman flying.
Oh
So
yeah,
essentially, the original Superman with Christopher Reeves that was put
right.
on this theater. I don't know if it was dubbed in Hindi or it was just English or something. But my mom took me to see that movie, and I don't remember seeing that movie. I just remember watching in a theater and looking at Superman flying. So yes, so we like our exposure was just so limited. I
Yeah, it
mean,
was Doordarshan or nothing.
and
Metro or
we were
nothing.
fortunate that DD2, the Doordarshan, the second channel of the
Yeah,
Doordarshan,
DD2.
actually used to show He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Yes.
I mean, that was the greatest thing ever.
Yes.
So
He-Man, Masters of the Universe, Batman animated series.
no, was that on DD2 as well?
Yeah, that was on DD2 as well.
Okay,
We
I
also
think it was
had
much later, right?
the original time that it was released in US. I think it was 1990 or 1989.
Okay.
We got it in 1992, 1993, around that time.
Yeah. But like much, like He-Man was much earlier.
Yeah. He-Man was much earlier. He-Man,
Yeah.
and we had the Fleischer Brothers Superman cartoons. Yeah, those were the first animated series content that we got to see. Those are the only content that we had to
No,
celebrate
I
our
remember Spider-Man as well.
the
I
Geekdom.
remember Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
There
Which
was
one?
an animated Spider-Man. I'm forgetting. Like it was like super 80s.
Okay.
The one in which his hair is like a spider's fangs. Like
Oh,
his hair is shaped like when Peter Parker's hair is like
yeah.
is in the shape of a spider's fangs.
Okay, I'll
You
sing
remember
the theme.
that?
You tell me if it's the same one that you're a Spider-Man, Spider-Man.
Yeah. Exactly. That's whatever a spider can.
Yeah,
Exactly. This is pre-Spider-Man and his
okay,
Amazing
you're
Friends.
talking about the old, you're talking about the old Spider-Man. You won't believe I hadn't seen Spider-Man back then. The animated show that
Oh,
I got to see Spider-Woman.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I remember that as well. Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's the first Spider-Man related content that I got to see.
Uh, so I think it was in that show, or yeah, I think it was in that show that. I mean, we're going on tangents here, but it's
Yes.
needed. Like I remember, it was in that show that we talked about. I saw Captain America for the first time. So,
So the
so
Spider-Man and
Spider-Man is
yeah,
yeah. So it was the first time I saw a superhero acting like a fan.
yes.
Okay, so it was a really good episode in which this Captain America is doing some event and everybody is around and taking photographs and stuff. And Spider-Man goes and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna take photos of stuff." It's actually Captain America. So he starts acting like how we
How
would
we are acting
act
about
towards
Star Wars.
Superman, towards Spider-Man. Yeah, and towards ours. So, and I think that was one of Spider-Man's greatest strengths in that you felt like you could be him.
Yeah, I
Like
think that
you
also
related to
influenced.
him.
I think that also influenced uh, your fandom over Captain America. You became a huge fan of Captain America.
Yeah,
You're a
yeah,
huge
yeah,
fan of Captain
exactly.
America, and I think that would have been one of the earliest influences for you to
Exactly,
like
exactly.
Captain America.
Because I was like, I'm such a huge fan of Spider-Man,
Mm-hmm.
and Spider-Man is such a huge fan of Captain America. Then who is Captain America? I mean, like, he must be like the greatest superhero ever. Now, obviously, I had not read Superman and Batman by that at that time,
This is
but
like
yes,
a geekdom within a geekdom.
a geekception. So,
Geekception. Nice.
so yeah. So going back to Star Wars. So yeah, go on with your story about how you.
Yeah, so there was little to no exposure when it came to Hollywood movies or TV, except for Doordarshan and DD2.
And people have to realize this, that there were only two channels on television. There was no television. Like, okay, so like the television for us was this one TV thing. Like it was the the CRT, I guess you call it, the big tubed ones,
Right.
gigantic televisions, and it was just connected to like this antenna on top of the building, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like a wireframe thingy,
Yes.
and it would just receive government. So Doordarshan was this government-sponsored television channel, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
so there were two channels called Doordarshan. Literally means television, like in translated to
Oh, okay.
Hindi. So Dur means distance,
Right.
like far. It literally means far,
Dur,
and
yeah.
darshan means like vision.
Vision, okay. Far vision.
Yeah. So it technically it means television. So it's the best they could come up with, I guess. So
Oh,
Doordarshan, DD1, and then DD2. These were the two channels. Only two channels were available for us, and available to us. And in only and DD1 was the programming was very like an everyman programming, right? Like
yeah.
farmers watch in their villages and stuff.
Yes.
It was that. And DD2 was a little better with the programming, like a more specific urban target. I think it had for people who lived in cities and stuff. So DD2 had more specific programming and some programming for children. And then they brought in He-Man, and you learn a lot of lessons from He-Man. At the end of every episode, they would be, "Oh, today we learned," and stuff. And it was like,
Oh,
it was
the
the first time
message
I saw
stuff.
that.
Oh, the message stuff was amazing.
Yeah. I got a lot of, life lessons in the beginning. I learned a lot of stuff from He-Man, to be honest.
I believe you. Yeah, so in a galaxy dur away, so I'm looking at this laser disc. It's this huge disc. The cover on it says Star Wars. It says A New Hope. So
Wow.
that's where my hope began. So he played it, and there's this huge thing. I think it was a THQ or THX. You remember those things? When the movie begins, there's this beautiful sound like, and it says THQ or THX.
Exactly.
So it was already, we were already entering the digital age back in the 90s itself, I think. And a small robot shows up, and it says Lucasfilm
Yeah.
on it. And I had no idea back then what Lucasfilm was. And so the movie begins, and then the movie ends. And I had
This is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I haven't seen anything like this before, man. I had not seen anything like this before. That was the first Star Wars experience. It started, I was speechless, and it ended, I went back home speechless.
Because I think it was so, like, even for people who saw it in 77, I think it had such a huge impact on them because they had never seen anything like it before. That's first. But the other thing is like the themes it plays with, which we'll get to.
Right.
But I think the American people in 77, where they were in terms of seeing something like this, we were still at that level, or maybe even, behind that level, living in India and these small cities. At least you were in Chennai, right? So you were still like, that's one of the big cities in India. Like I was totally cut off. So I had like zero exposure to like the only thing I had seen at the time was Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that was because like my uncle, he brought this VCR, the VHS cassette.
The VHS, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going like way back. So he got this VHS tape of the Predator, the first Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh wow!
And he shows it to me, and we didn't own a VHS player, so he rents one. Okay, so I remember there were like these places you could go to, and they would rent out VHS tapes as well as players. Like you wanted for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days.
Yeah, we used to have a lot of VHS renting shops and stuff.
So yeah, these were like, there's this one place, just one place which did this nearby. So he got it from there, and at home, and we sat down, and I watched Predator, and I was like I still remember the first time, I saw a hero that looked like that. I had no idea a hero, a man can look like the way Arnold Schwarzenegger did. That was possible for, that's a human body. So I thought it was only like the He-Man stuff was just, he was literally what He-Man looked like. And
in real life.
Yeah, and I never thought that it was possible, to be honest. So that movie was insane. It was like played on so many themes, and I just love that. But Star Wars, nobody thought of, but that was like it had something in it, right, which enticed, as in the Predator movie I'm talking about, as in there's an alien and there's a lot of guns and stuff.
Yes.
So that was a movie that he got me. Star Wars, nobody really like, and I'm not going out. I wasn't going to these places to find movies and stuff.
Right.
I was like,
we just sat and watched whatever they played.
Yes. And the way we were at home, like my mom was a little protective of me and stuff, so I wasn't really allowed to go outside a lot, so I was my movement was kind of limited from like it was just home to school and back, and that was it.
Right.
So for me, it's a little different. So the first time I saw anything Star Wars was actually the Phantom Menace.
So you began from episode 1.
Yeah, exactly. I began from episode 1.
Right.
Okay, and I like, people hate episode 1, but I fucking loved it.
Forget about people hating it.
So what happened was that like this was still in Jamshedpur, okay, and this small city town place which I was living in, it was like everything. So the only comic books I ever read while there was, so I'll tell you how small the city was. There was one book fair thing which used to happen once a year there. Okay, and that was the only time I could buy comics.
Oh,
okay. So I could only buy, and these were comics, and these were not like, oh, these are this year's releases or something. I mean, they would dig far back and pull up some comic book from somewhere. So there was I remember the most well-remembered memory I have of a comic book I bought from that fair was this Superboy comic book.
Oh, wow.
Which I got. And there was one Superboy, comic book, and there was a Batman comic book.
The
And
Superboy with the jacket on and the
yeah,
EG
exactly,
glasses.
exactly,
Mm.
exactly.
Mm.
So that, and there was a Batman comic book, which I just remember that his ears were like super long, like
Oh, okay.
gigantic long. So
All right.
I think there was a specific era which that belongs to. So
The
his
long
ears
ears.
were like,
Yeah.
and I think he fought with a sword. I can't remember. So no,
Okay.
that story had the man bat in it, whatever
Oh,
that
okay.
issue was.
Okay. Okay.
So I had never seen that, like, because I sort of knew about Batman,
Okay.
and I was like, if he's Batman, why isn't the other guy Batman as well? I mean, he's a man bat. I was like, whoa, my head is like, I was like, whoa, that's insane that they could come up with wordplay like that. I thought that was genius. Like,
Genius and a genius character as well. Kurt
yeah,
Lang.
yeah, exactly. So, and I thought it was crazy that the Batman was more of a man, and the man bat was actually more of a bat.
Right.
So that's how, like, that was the only time in the year that I could actually indulge myself into geek stuff. And
Oh,
I was lucky that there were some, like my mom, she used to bring me Tintin comics, and
the good stuff.
so before anything else, before any other comic book, I read Tintin. So
That's nice.
that was my initial, my initiation into comics. And there were some comic books at home from their time.
Ah,
Okay. And like I wish I still had them. I don't know where they went because we moved and we lost them or something. So these comic books were like old American comic books. These were Richie Rich, Lotta, then Hot Stuff. Okay, a lot of people won't even know these comic books. Okay, then um, so I loved Richie Rich. I mean, I thought like it was genius. Those comics were genius. Like
it's
so much
true.
of adventure and Tintin, man. The adventure in Tintin was like when I saw the new movie, I appreciated it so much. I mean, the animated movie. I was like, Tintin is like adventure. And
Yeah, that's what it was. The movie was.
the movie was adventure. I mean,
Hmm.
it took you to that same place you went when reading these comic books.
Right.
And I don't care what other people thought about that movie, but people who grew up reading Tintin totally understood what that movie was about.
Absolutely.
So so yeah. So what happens is like I'm watching television with my mom,
Right.
and this. So Star Trek used to even air before this, right? So I used to catch some Star Trek on the television there. What's
Okay,
it
the
called?
original one with Will Shatner.
With William Shatner, yeah.
Right.
So Star Trek they used to. So by this time, I think there was cable television in India. So there was some new private channels which had launched, right? So there
Right.
was Zee Television, there was Sony TV, and uh, I think three or four Star TV. Okay,
Right.
so if you remember, there were two Star channels only at that time. There was the normal Star TV, and then there was Star Plus.
Yes.
Star Plus used to show all these amazing animated movies, animated shows, and a lot of
Right. I
anime
still
as well.
remember waking up at 4 a.m. to watch Garfield.
And there was this. So I found out later what it was called, but there was this Force 5 anime.
Oh, right.
Okay, so it was
Right.
something called the Force 5. It was essentially 5 different animes,
Okay.
but they took the format. It was the same format which was used to air them in, I think, America and Japan, or I don't know what. But
Okay.
it was called the Force 5. These were 5 different animes which were aired during the 5 days of the week, Monday to Friday.
Right.
And every day I remember it was at 3 o'clock, okay, afternoon. So 3 o'clock afternoon every day they would air, and this was like I'm forgetting the name of the show. It was like these were animes, okay, like the mecha animes and stuff.
All right. Okay.
It was really cool. There was one where three of them used to combine and become something else.
That was your favorite anime of all time, I guess.
No. I'll tell you what my favorite anime was
Okay.
in that. Let me just look it up.
I know Ninja Robots. I was
No,
gonna say
Ninja
Ninja
Robots was
Robots.
I think much later.
Okay.
So the this one was Grandizer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Grandizer was used to be my favorite. UFO
Oh,
Robo
okay.
Grandizer. So yeah, so like my exposure was even more limited. So the first thing I saw was like one day we're just watching Star movies. Like they had a movie channel, Star movies,
Right.
and they just happened to be showing uh, the Phantom Menace.
Promos of Phantom Menace.
No, just like I didn't even see any promos.
Okay.
So
Oh, so you
like
watched the movie itself?
yeah, I just watched the movie.
Okay.
The
Okay.
movie was on television.
Right.
Okay, and I watched the movie, and I watched Phantom Menace, and I thought, okay, this Darth Maul dude is the greatest villain I have ever seen. Okay, like even if not the greatest villain, it's the coolest looking villain I have ever seen in my life. And who is this guy? Like, and what was this? What was this I saw? I mean, these were people with like laser swords, lightsabers, and this thing, the pod race blew my mind. And uh, and I even like Jar Jar Binks, to be honest. I mean, my humor was limited, I guess, but so, so I even like Jar Jar Binks, and this idea that these people were powered, like as in they had powers, right? Like
Yeah.
they
They
could
did.
run fast and they could jump from great heights and
Mm.
they could sense things and all that jazz.
Yeah.
So it just really fascinated me, and I was like, I need to find out more about this. So during this time we had moved from to another city, and then I got a little more exposure. Then I looked into it and I thought, oh, Star Wars is something that's already existed. So so I got to watching the other movies. So I saw.
Wow.
So this is just after uh, this thing had aired in India. So and I mean, episode 2 wasn't made by this time.
Right.
So I acquired the episode 4 and 5 and 6, and then I watched them, and I mean, I said, okay, these are even better. I mean,
Yeah.
uh,
Right. They're better.
so this is like the greatest thing that's ever existed. I mean, it's as simple as that. So in India we have like this, we have always been in touch with mythology, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's been a huge part of our lives. Not that, not I'm not talking about influence and stuff. It's just that it's always been there.
That's
This
always been there.
the mythology of the Indian mythology, and Ram, Krishna, Shiv, everything. It's always been there around you.
Yeah.
Right? So you see people worshipping, you see temples, you see people talking about it. There were TV shows like this really epic TV show on air about the Mahabharata, and it's still one of the best TV shows made. So it's always been around us, and this was mythology.
It was.
I mean, this was the first time I saw something which was outside of uh,
The Indian mythology.
the Indian mythology that I could consider to be mythology. And and I'm not kidding. Going back to this book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, by Joseph Campbell. I mean, that's what George Lucas referred to while writing. So it essentially says, it gives like this blueprint, all the past mythologies and cultures, and all these civilizations throughout history have used to write strong tales that human could connect to, with which have a message in them. Like right back down to Gilgamesh.
Right.
Okay, so and he used that as a blueprint for making Star Wars. And I'm not joking. Like, you go the way we treat, Gilgamesh and Mahabharata and Ramayana now,
Mm-hmm.
like as masterpieces of mythology, is
Right.
what Star Wars will be treated as 1,000 years from now or 2,000 years from now.
That's true.
It's the great epic of our time. It's not a joke. I mean, this is true.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Even though it was a different medium, it was not like recited. It was not recited at festivals like the Iliad and the Odyssey were, but it was shown on television, on big giant screens. I would say that's even bigger. Yeah. It has a bigger impact on culture.
I mean,
So
we celebrate it as mythology and religion. I wouldn't be able to tell you how people would see this
yeah, exactly. So
20 years from now. I think.
yeah. So I thought, why isn't there a religion around this? I mean, the story is as good as Mahabharata, and those are Hindu gods who have religion. Why isn't this a religion? So, I mean, just because it's a movie, and I mean, is the only reason that this isn't a religion is that, it was just made. I mean, people don't believe this to be true. So Luke Skywalker, like, I was a big fan of Darth Vader, but for me, Darth Vader wasn't the main attraction of Star Wars, to be honest.
Right.
Like, because I connected very heavily with Luke Skywalker,
Right.
his story, because he comes from this very small place, and I came from a very small place, and he has no idea what's happening in the rest of the world, and I had no idea what's happening in the rest of the world. So when he takes that journey
Mm-hmm.
to really understand what the world is, how it exists, and he comes to know of this power, and it's a metaphor. I mean, the power of the Force. It's a metaphor for what you can achieve if you believe in something.
That's true.
So it's faith to an extent, yes, but it's also something within you. That's what it stands for. And you can use you can believe in yourself, and you can do things, you can go up against things that you could only dream of. You can do things. So that message of getting out of, he's not just isolated in this planet on Tatooine. It's not like, it's a metaphor, right?
Yeah, right.
It's a metaphor for how he thinks, how a person thinks. Their outlook on the world. It can be very isolated, and they can be like more exposed. So I was very much influenced by his story, and I thought, like, Luke Skywalker, then he finds out it's his father, and I was like, holy shit. And then, because I had already seen Phantom Menace, and I knew, oh, this guy is Anakin. I mean, you don't find that out initially, but when I saw all three movies, and I was like, whoa, okay. So that guy, that was his story.
Okay, I didn't know whose story I was watching when I watched Phantom Menace. No, I mean, you watched Phantom Menace first, and then you came back to the original trilogy.
Yes.
So you knew what you had seen in Phantom Menace, right?
Yes, I knew, but I didn't know that Anakin was Darth Vader.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So I had seen the Phantom Menace in isolation. Like, I didn't read any press around it. So, all the news articles or whatever might have been there or existing at the time, which said, oh, this is a story about, how Darth Vader originated or something. I was not exposed to that. I was just exposed to.
Not like kids these days, they can just go onto Wikipedia and find out what happened.
Yeah,
instead of actually watching or reading something.
Exactly.
Right, that part about you connecting with Luke Skywalker, that's the most beautiful and unbelievable thing about Star Wars. Even though it's fiction and it's happening in some other universe, some other system, lots of planets, different planets, but you're able to relate to that character.
Yes. So this is what a lot of people fail to see. I mean, like if you tell them that you're this passionate about Star Wars or what you think about Star Wars, my entire life is about Star Wars. And they would be weirded out by it. I mean, they won't really understand what you're saying. Like, they won't understand why you are so into it. And this is where it is. I mean, I'm not into it because of what happens in the plot. I'm into it because how well I related to it. And this is the core point of, the core reason why all these mythologies were so effective in their time. These mythologies, the Iliad, Mahabharata, Ramayana, because they all have this one character or many characters which people can relate to. Right. You have Achilles, people relate to people who, feel like they don't fit in society,
Mm-hmm.
who feel that they're different, uh, who related to Achilles. Okay, and there were people who were people who were very much connected to their societies and a part of it and how society worked. They related to Hector. Uh,
Right.
so both of these types of people, they see this story, and then there are gods, and there's Priam, who's fathers who they relate to Priam because of his love for Hector.
Right.
uh,
Right.
they relate to him, seeing in him the same love they have for their children. So
That
that's
was
great.
played by Peter O'Toole, right?
The great Peter O'Toole, yes.
In
So
that
in the
awesome
movie Thor,
Wolfgang
I
Peterson,
love that movie. Thor, Troy, sorry.
in that awesome Wolfgang Peterson movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Like, if you compare the original literature, it's a great way of going about it by
Mm-hmm.
removing all the gods and just making it a human story.
Right.
So that's what it is. Like, there are people who relate to Princess Leia, there are people who relate to Han Solo, there are people who relate to Luke Skywalker, okay, and just people who just appreciate the enigma of Darth Vader. So,
And people wanted to be related to Princess Leia after Return of the Jedi, right?
what do you mean?
Until they saw Return of the Jedi, people were able to relate to all these characters.
Yeah. After
But
that, they
yeah,
wanted to be related to.
after Return of the Jedi, people wanted to be related to Princess Leia.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, everyone did, man. Come on, like, I mean, not to, like, I'm all for the feminist agenda and stuff, but like, the slave layer outfit it just does things to you. I mean, you can't do anything. It just happens. So yes, and Carrie Fisher, obviously, she looked amazing in all three movies, and like, it could be the fan in me who's grown up watching Princess Leia as she was in the movies, but I still felt her to be as attractive as her daughter, and they're like, and this is not to say that her daughter isn't attractive. She's very attractive. So it's the same reason we still love Sigourney Weaver.
Oh yes.
We saw Alien and Aliens and stuff, and we were like so much in love with her from those movies that it still carries over no matter.
Yeah, that's why I would like to say that we are strong feminists.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
we love all these strong female
Strong
characters.
women, yeah, exactly. So,
And forget about Princess Leia in the slave costume. What did she do in that slave costume? She managed to
yeah,
kill Jabba the Hutt.
exactly. Yes, exactly. And who was like one of the biggest villains in the whole series. I mean,
Yeah, one of the biggest villains, one of the most powerful characters in the Star Wars universe.
yes,
He,
everybody knows Jabba the Hutt. I mean, again, that's a metaphor, like her costume is also a metaphor that he has enslaved her. She has made her submit to him, and from that position, from the position of being enslaved by Jabba the Hutt, she's able to kill him and overcome her troubles. So I saw all three episodes.
and this was before uh, Attack of the Clones, right?
And then Attack of the Clones released, and this time I was in Chandigarh, and Chandigarh had, which is a city in North India.
Right.
We had moved there, and it's a much bigger city, much more, you can be much more connected to the outside world, much more information flowing through. There was internet, and then when I was in Chandigarh, Attack of the Clones gets released, and that's the
Nice.
first time I see a Star Wars movie in the theater.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, and I loved it. I really liked the movie, and yes, looking back, Hayden Christensen had this weird acting thing going on, but I thought the way he did it, like, if I didn't see the same thing everywhere else he appears, I would think, oh, he acted really well. Like, if he had more range, and that was one of his ranges. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yes,
what he
yes.
did in Star Wars movies,
Mm-hmm.
this agonized look thing which he had going on. Like, if that was his acting, as in that was him getting into the character and a specific bit that he was doing for that movie,
Mhm.
I would have thought he was like a great actor, to be honest.
Right.
But then I see other Hayden Christensen movies, and he does the same thing in every movie. You know, so that's actually the only thing that he can do, which is like, oh, okay, whatever. But
But you got to see him in Star Wars before all of his other movies, right?
yeah, I had no idea who Hayden
Yeah.
Christensen
So
was.
I think that way we were blessed to
Yes,
see.
absolutely. And the final scene in Attack of the Clones where it's on Genosha, right? The planet was
Yeah, the
called
Battle of
Genosha, I believe.
Genosha.
Uh, and all these Jedi's, they come, and the clone troopers, and
Yeah, how unexpected was that? Huh? We hadn't seen so many Jedi before that.
who will place the order for these Master Cypher Diaz? And it's like, who is this
Right.
Cypher Diaz? So I need to know. I need to know about, and then I start reading books and shit. And I start looking into novels and start reading novels and start reading comics and yeah, everything Star Wars must consume. Start playing games, man. Oh my god, like the Jedi Outcast games and the pod racing game and there was so much Star Wars content to be consumed out there.
Right. Years
So
and years of Star Wars contents through Dark Horse comics, Marvel comics. Then there were the novels.
yeah. I think they were Del Rey novels or whatever. So
Right.
and then they did these audiobooks. And there's this guy called Mark Thompson
Right.
who reads them, and he's like the most gifted person on that. So he can do almost everyone in the Star Wars universe. I mean, he can
Wow.
do the closest Han Solo without actually being Han Solo, the
Right.
closest Luke Skywalker without actually being, Mark Hamill or Luke Skywalker himself.
Wow.
And this one guy who just keeps using different accents, and all these audiobooks had the original Star Wars score in them, and like the special and the sound effects, the Lucasfilm, whatever sound effects of the lightsaber battles and stuff.
The
They were
music and the
just
sound effects
exactly, and
definitely make Star Wars
that's what
Star Wars.
makes Star Wars. Yeah, exactly. Right. The John Williams score is what makes Star Wars what it is.
Yeah.
So every
John
time you
Williams
hear Across the
score and
Stars,
John
you
Williams
start
score
crying.
and
Sorry.
Skywalker sound.
Yes, the Skywalker sound. Exactly. I forgot. So So every time you hear Across the Stars, you
Right.
start crying. So people don't understand, and I'm watching the new Star Wars trailer and I'm crying, and if somebody sees me like that, they'll think, oh, what the hell are you crying looking at the trailer? But it just happens. You can't help it. And we will be crying when we watch The Force Awakens. That's a fact. See, what happened was, like, once I got into Star Wars, I was like, okay, how many Star Wars things are there to be consumed? And
Right.
I'm going to consume everything. That was like my aim. So I was like, okay, there are video games to be played, I will play them. And there are books to be read, I will read them. There are toys to be bought, I will buy as many as I can, with the money that I have. And which wasn't a lot. So episode 4 is the origin. It's the real story. I mean,
Yeah.
like everything else, the prequels is fluff compared to what the original trilogy is. Even though I love those movies,
Right.
but they're nothing in front of the original trilogy.
It's where we see this young fellow like us who's lost. He does have his aunt and his uncle, but
Yeah,
he doesn't know what he's doing. He's a teenager who's selfish. He wants to hang out with his friends, his droids.
and he wants to escape, right? He wants to just put this
He
life
doesn't know
behind
it.
him and
Yeah,
get
he
somewhere else.
doesn't know it, but he wants to escape because he's staring out there and he's staring at the skies and he sees what's
And the twin
out
sons.
there. Yeah, the two suns. Where have you seen that image before? I mean, I haven't even imagined that idea
Yeah,
of
yeah,
two suns.
exactly. The two sons thing just blew my mind. I mean, you know why that image is so, like, it so blows your mind? Because the fact is that there are two suns is so alien. Okay,
Yes.
it's so alien that there are two suns. But what's happening in that scene is something people do or something they can relate to so much, just staring out in the horizon.
Right.
And that beautiful music playing in the background, that doesn't happen to everybody. But it makes it's sadness and it's hope and it's people look at the sun or like this, it's peaceful, and then they look at the horizon and think of the future and what it holds for them, and none of those things need to be spoken at that moment. I mean, it's there on screen. You know what he's thinking in that scene when he doesn't say a single word and he's just staring out in the horizon into the two suns.
I'm getting goosebumps as we're talking about this.
Exactly. I mean, Star Wars is goosebumps. So he is staring. I mean, it's something so relatable when you see someone staring into the horizon. So it's combining these two things of something we've never seen and something we relate to so well, and they're putting it together in this one sequence, and it just blows your mind away. Hello?
Whom did you like the best from the first movie? I know you told us that you like Luke Skywalker very much.
Yes. Yeah, I thought Luke
Between
Skywalker.
between Luke and Han Solo,
Okay,
it's a
so
tough battle,
Luke,
right?
Luke is what you relate to, and Han Solo is what you want to be.
Okay, so
Right.
when
So
it comes to Raunak, it's like Luke is Spider-Man and Han Solo is Captain America.
Captain America, exactly. They're both heroes, but even then, I mean, Han Solo is Han Solo. Come on.
Right.
So you see Han Solo, and it's not someone you relate to at all. Like, at least I didn't. I don't know. And because he's this cool guy, and like we've never been cool, I think, in our lives. So so, he's
Like
this
he's the
cool
coolest guy.
guy.
He's gonna come.
He's very
Well,
quippy,
if he's gonna go somewhere, he's the one walking out with the girl.
and we see those people a lot. So 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 yeah, Han Solo is this guy that you would want to be, but you probably never will. And that's his allure in a way.
Do you remember that deleted scene from Phantom Menace?
No, what was that?
Qui-Gon Jinn,
Hmm.
I think, is walking away with young Anakin Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's this tiny kid alien who keeps fighting with Anakin and all the other kids who's bullying.
Yeah. I remember. Was
You
that
remember that?
Greedo?
Yeah, that was
I
little
thought he was
Greedo.
just the same character, the same species or something.
That was little Greedo, it seems, because towards the ending of that dialogue, they say, "Don't act too smart, Greedo. One day you might get shot or something." That's the dialogue.
That's like so episode 1. I mean, that line. It's like episode 1 was very in your face, sort of slapstick comedy kind of. The whole with the weird creature farting and Jar Jar Binks' face and everything. And I mean, that was like looking back, I enjoyed the whole movie, but there were points in the middle I was like, oh, there was no need for this. Yes. What happens next? So they find the ship and they get on the ship and
Yeah, that's
ship
actually
is the
which was actually a piece of junk, and we failed to notice that, right?
yeah, exactly. Why do they? I'm like, okay, if they think this is a piece of junk when they show it, I mean, what do ships actually look like in this universe? That they think, I mean, this is like the coolest looking ship I've seen in my life. Why is this a piece of junk?
What did you think of the message from R2D2? That's the first time we see this beautiful woman.
No, we see her on the ship in the opening.
Oh,
By
right.
the opening. So, like when she faces off with Darth Vader and she's not wearing a bra. So, yeah, you instantly fall in love with her. That's what happens in that movie. I mean, Carrie Fisher and Princess Leia.
Our hero Luke Skywalker is like, he doesn't want to shift his eyes
Yeah.
away from that message.
Yeah. Yeah, because, and that's how you even relate to him even more, right? I mean, he is like totally captured by her beauty.
Right.
Like who is this girl and stuff, and that is what you were feeling, 10 minutes ago when you were watching that scene of her like being captured and Darth Vader questioning her and stuff. Who
Right.
you were also like, who is this woman? Who is this like this great beauty? So let's talk about the lightsaber battles throughout the Star Wars trilogy because for me those were the coolest moments.
Right. Okay.
So obviously you have the best lightsaber battle till now is Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in the first episode.
Right. They were
But
amazing.
yes, it was like super well choreographed and
Yeah.
Ray Park was just so amazing as Darth Maul. But you also have this the final battle of Revenge of the Sith. Yes, and what's the planet's name? The planet's name was Mustafar. Yes. So you have this battle on Mustafar, the volcanic planet.
Yeah.
And okay, let me just confirm that it was Mustafar.
Mustafa with all those Chinese-looking alien people. I mean, not
Mustafar.
Chinese-looking, but the way they spoke like Chinese.
Yes, it is Mustafar. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, you have this amazing battle on Mustafar, and it looks very choreographed.
Right.
So there are these moments in the fight, right, where they're just swinging the lightsabers.
Mm-hmm.
This one specific moment in the fight, if you remember, where they're just standing, swinging the lightsabers,
Right. Right.
not hitting each other.
Yes.
So people are like, if you just see that one bit of the fight, it looks a little odd. They're just swinging this lightsabers, they're not attacking by that. Or if somebody who doesn't understand what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
it would look weird to him.
Yes.
So, but what's actually happening is that they are so they're predicting each other's movements at that point in time. And whoever makes the first move
Right.
is going to get countered.
Right.
So
right.
they've both of them have gotten into this stance of this defensive stance where they're both preparing for the other guy to attack, to make a move.
Right.
And so it's like a standoff.
What a nice way to die, huh? Dump this huge, powerful person, even though he's just a young boy, he's like super powerful. Just dump him into the hands of Obi-Wan and just die.
Exactly.
That's Master Qui-Gon
Nice
Jinn.
Qui-Gon.
Liam Neeson, when he played Qui-Gon Jinn, I remember first seeing him as Darkman.
Yes.
The movie by Master Sam Raimi.
It wasn't Darkman Alec Baldwin?
No, that was The Shadow.
Oh shit! Yes, absolutely. So I just confused the two. You're right. Yes.
Right. So we've already seen him as a superhero, and he was supposed to play James Bond. Remember?
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, they were gonna sign him as James Bond. He didn't do it, but later on he did Taken, and people said, "Oh, what's James Bond? Taken is much better."
Yeah, Taken was actually pretty legend.
Yeah, and to see him as Qui-Gon Jinn was amazing. Like, this is the guy who found Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
And so here we are in Revenge of the Sith, and they're battling it out, and they can read each other's movements, and they can tell if he's gonna attack or not.
And there's so much sadness in that fight, man.
Yes.
Like you can feel Obi-Wan's sadness in that fight, and you can feel Anakin's madness in that fight. He's like totally he lost his mother. He just doesn't wanna lose Padme, and that's what the dark side of the Force does.
It's like us, like if we're brothers and we're fighting, and we just want the other person to try and understand what's on our mind, and the younger brother isn't getting it,
and this younger brother can destroy the whole galaxy. So you have to, what are you going to do? You have to stop.
Just cut off his arms and legs and let him burn near the
he warns him, right? Like he just doesn't cut off his arms and legs and arms.
Right.
He warns him that please stop fighting. I have the higher ground. You have been defeated.
Yeah.
And in his blindness, he doesn't see that fact, and he's like, which is obviously very Sith. It's like every Sith's downfall.
Right.
So their ego just takes over at the most crucial time, and then they get beaten. So yeah, so he just jumps and then he gets his limbs chopped off. So bringing things back to Force Awakens and like sort of coming to the end of this episode. You must have heard this one rumor which is going around that, I mean, I don't know how people can even, okay, so anyway, so what these people do is, there was a rumor that Luke Skywalker is Kylo Ren. Have you read that?
Get out of here.
Okay,
How
so
did
seriously,
people come up with this?
I have no idea. Okay, so anyway, so even if you have not seen all of these images of Adam Driver as Kylo Ren,
Right.
these might just be, those people, this jet fuel can't melt sea beams. It's those people, guys. I'm telling you. So, it's the same people who think Luke Skywalker is Kylo Ren. Okay, so even if you have not seen any of the images of Adam Driver dressed up as Kylo Ren, so what happened in Return of the Jedi is that, so there's a final confrontation between Sidious and Luke.
Right.
And in that confrontation, Luke faces his greatest challenge. And that challenge is to not give in to the dark side.
Right.
To not give in to anger, and this is in the face of his friends' lives being in danger. Okay. So his friends are on Endor, and he knows that if he doesn't beat Sidious, they're all gonna die.
Right.
And all the people who are trying to fight to get rid of the Empire, all of them are gonna die if he doesn't beat Sidious. But he can't give in to the dark side. That is more important, because he knows that if he gives in to anger and he kills Sidious, he will become the next Sidious. So he's very conflicted, and he beats Sidious by not fighting him. I mean, he beats Sidious by appealing to his father.
Right.
Because he says, I know there is still good in you. Right? So the light, how does the light side win? I mean, this is very important.
Right.
Okay. Essentially, it's light versus dark in the end. And how does the light side win? The light side doesn't win by beating the dark side. The light side wins by removing the dark side.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there is a difference, because it removes the dark side's influence on Darth Vader, and then Darth Vader destroys Sidious.
Whoa.
Okay, so this difference is very important.
That's brilliant, Raunak.
Because the light side could have, obviously Luke was also, a Jedi. He was a light side user, but he just didn't go and kill Sidious. Okay, he can't, because then that is giving into anger. It brings out the good in someone who has given up hope on good.
Right.
So this is the ending of the Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
And that was his greatest challenge.
It
Luke
was.
Skywalker. If at that point in time where his friends are in danger and he's not giving into the dark side, if he can win, then there can be nothing which can make him turn to the dark side. Okay, that's his one test, his greatest test, right? And he passes that test. So dark side can't touch him. But what he understands now, and what I'm guessing, so this is my predictions for the Force Awakens, about where Luke has been and who these other characters are and stuff. So my guess is that the way he sees things should be is not the way we see things are in the first 3 episodes.
Right.
So in the first 3 episodes, you have this Jedi Council, and they are seeing over what's happening, what's going on, and like if there's a, they're almost like a police force.
Like a Peace Corps and a police force.
Yes. So, and that is not, and he understands that is not how the Jedi are supposed to be.
Right.
The Jedi shouldn't even exist in a way that like nobody should even know that they exist.
Right.
Okay. And
Okay.
everything like just goes along. There is injustice, but there is also justice. Okay, there are bad people, but there are also good people in the universe.
Right.
And these forces, they counterbalance each other.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
In the first 3 episodes, the Jedi have this presence all over, and they're influencing things, how governments are working and how society is. They have an influence in that.
Yeah, it's like as if they were giving orders to the politicians.
They were, I don't think they were giving orders, but I mean, they had a presence in how the government works and how Coruscant works, and they had a presence in the world.
Right.
And that presence is not required.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, unless there is a threat from the dark side of the force. And this is what Luke has understood. This is my prediction that
Okay.
after the end, because if you look at the games and the expanded universe, what Luke
Mm-hmm.
Skywalker does is he starts a school and he starts training at the Jedi, and
Mm-hmm.
he
Mm-hmm.
goes back to what the first 3 episodes were like. Like they have the Jedi temple and everybody lives there and they train. He's like this grandmaster guy, super
Right.
powerful. And that's a cool story, sure. But if this is what they have done, I think this makes a lot of sense. That Luke Skywalker, he sees that the threat from the Sith is gone,
Mm-hmm.
and since that threat is gone, he shouldn't exist in the reality of the universe right now. And so he
Right.
goes, because, so he is not needed, essentially. Right? Because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
a Jedi's job is not to seek out people who are doing bad things and then correct them.
That's true.
Right? A Jedi's job is to keep the force in check, keep the force in balance.
True.
And when there are bad people who are doing bad things, and there are also good people, like there's uprisings and revolutions, and and that has nothing to do with the force. Okay, that's just how things are. I mean, there'll be oppression and there will be revolution, and that's human. Well, they're not all human, but that's how living things uh, have their own progression through life.
Right. Right. Right.
And so he cannot,
Like he doesn't want to interfere.
he cannot interfere in the workings of the universe
Mm-hmm.
because that universe doesn't need him. When does the universe need him? The universe needs him when the force is out of balance. And when is the force out of balance? The force is out of balance when there is a Sith presence of the dark side.
Oh yeah.
So in this movie, I
Mm-hmm.
think what's happening is the Sith are finally rising, or even if Kylo Ren is not a Sith, he wants to be.
Right.
Essentially, the dark side is coming back,
The Knights
and
of
because the
Ren.
dark side is coming back, he has to awaken. Yeah?
Mm.
The Force needs to awaken, and hence the Force Awakens. I think this is what it is, and the Force Awakens, and he has to come back essentially.
Right.
And obviously, he's not the guy.
That's a very nice theory from a sound mind.
For who Kylo Ren and Rey and Finn are. Finn is, I think, I mean, I'm just guessing. Obviously, he's no way related to any of the Skywalkers. So
Okay.
he's just another Force user, like Force sensitive guy.
Did you see those images from a recent Star Wars comic book?
Yeah. I don't think they'll do that though. Like
Okay.
the wife, like Han Solo's wife. That's too much to put in the one movie. So I really don't
It
think.
was like as if Han Solo was already married to someone else.
I think they've done this because just to play with us, like
Right.
just to trick us into thinking that.
Okay.
But I also think that Kylo Ren is the grandson of Anakin Skywalker.
What? Really?
Yes, that is my guess. Okay, my
Okay.
guess is Kylo Ren and Rey are brother and sister.
Okay.
Okay, Kylo Ren is both of them are Han and Leia's children. He found out about his grandfather's history, and it sort of it drew him in. then he says, I'm going to finish what you started.
I can't wait for Force Awakens.
Yeah, man, obviously.
There are two movies I want to know what's gonna happen in those movies, and one of them is Force Awakens, and that's coming out in a couple of days from now, right?
No, that's coming out in like a week from now for us.
Right. I hope there's a way to save Kylo Ren because I really like Adam Driver. I think the Boba Fett level of awesomeness in this movie, I think it's gonna be Poe Dameron and Captain Phasma. I think they're gonna,
exactly.
or Poe Dameron as Han Solo and Captain Phasma as Boba Fett.
No, I think the Han Solo equivalent is Rey.
Okay, you're not saying this because you have a crush on Daisy Ridley, right?
Yeah, of course I have. Like, of course that's. Yeah, I really wish though that she was the Force sensitive, whatever, because I really wanted to see a female Jedi.
Right. I think that is possible with Force Awakens, and I hope it's true when it comes out.
Yeah, but then you'll have like 3 Force sensitive.
Right, but that was another thing that they were trying to show us in Star Wars Rebels. The Empire was hunting down Force users. Anyone who was capable of using the Force, they were hunting them down with the Sith Inquisitor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and one of the reasons they had this, those cadets who were training to be stormtroopers, they were trying to find out if anyone had, had the ability.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, Force ability. If anyone was a Force user.
Force sensitive stormtroopers.
Yes, and they were trying to, and that was one of the reasons they had that cadet training, that stormtrooper training. To find out if people were Force users and to eliminate them through this training.
Damn.
If anyone was, if anyone had performed in an excellent manner, they would find out.
So maybe Finn is like hiding his powers when he's a stormtrooper, and he's gonna. So it'll be something like he's Force sensitive, and he knows
they
that,
might have, and maybe
they're gonna kill him or something. That's why he runs. Yeah.
Right. That would be amazing to watch on screen. I can't wait for Force Awakens. I don't know how many times I've told this already. I understand and appreciate the beauty of Empire Strikes Back, but Return of the Jedi was one of the best movies of all time.
Yeah.
Just look at Mark Hamill. The way he's performing, it's so subtle compared to the first 2 movies because he is a Jedi in this movie.
Yes, he's finally a Jedi.
Yeah, he's not lost, or he's not searching for the Force, or he's not trying to understand the way the Force works. He knows how the Force works, and that's why I think he was able to remove the dark side.
And that is the Jedi's biggest strength.
Yeah, and
to inspire other people.
And I don't get how people had something to complain in that movie about the Ewoks. They were actually badass. They were trying to eat Han Solo and Chewbacca, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they were trying to eat them. They're badass. They're not some little furry teddy bears, friendly teddy bears or anything. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode of our podcast. Please send us your questions and opinions, and if you have topics for us to discuss.
Yeah, if there's a TV show that you like that we don't usually talk about in the later episodes and stuff. So, like, you can tell us what you thought about those episodes, and we'll make sure to mention you.
We'll give you a shout out.
Yes.
You need to email us at thehollywoodguys@gmail.com.
So that's it from us for this week. We hope to do the second episode next week after we've seen The Force Awakens. I hope you guys enjoyed going back through all that nostalgia and going through the 80s and the 90s and the first time we saw Star Wars. It was a great experience for us. We really had fun talking about it as well.
Right.
So until next week, keep everyone around you spoiler free. Do not tell what happens in The Force Awakens if you've already seen it. Wait for at least 2 weeks. May the Force be with you. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.